Hi, friends. I am tuning in to record a read aloud that I'm going to share tonight after I do some book recommendations. Um, and I picked a book that I've had for a little while, but I haven't shared it with everybody. And it's written by, well, I'll show you. The book is called Drawn Together by Min Lee, and it's illustrated by Dan Santat. And you might recognize his name because last year I did a read aloud with his book, Dan Santat's book After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again, which I love this book. Um, but this book picked, it's an interesting book. It's not completely wordless, but there are some pages where you're going to see where there's not a lot of talking happening between the two characters. And I just love how the story unfolds here. We have a grandfather and a grandson. And you see kind of two very different images here, where the grandfather is kind of in this black and white image that he's created, and the grandson is colorful and young. And so we're going to learn about their relationship. And I just thought this was the perfect book for starting us off in the month of November. We have, you know, uh, we have at the end of the month Thanksgiving coming up, and a lot of us, this will be a time where we get together with family, and so you'll see about this relationship with the grandfather and the grandson. I know I feel pretty lucky that my daughter Emerson has her grandparents who live here in Massachusetts, and then her grandparents who live in Virginia, that she gets to spend time with and see. And I know many of you have grandparents or other family members. And Thanksgiving is a time where if you don't get to see them throughout the year, you might get to see them at the end of this month. So I'm going to read to you Drawn Together by Min Lee. And I love, even in the beginning, it says, sometimes you don't need words to find common ground. Drawn together. And you can see in the front here, we've got the car and he's coming out. And he doesn't exactly look too excited to go to his grandpa's house. So here we go. He's ringing the doorbell. Grandpa looks really excited to see him. And they're bowing to each other. They're saying goodbye to his mom. And he looks happy, and he maybe looks not so sure about this visit. Here they are having lunch, which looks two very different meals. This probably looks pretty familiar to many of you, and this might look familiar, but it might be different for a lot of kids that are not having a meal like that. And so they're kind of eating quietly, not talking. Finally, he says, "So, what's new, Grandpa?" And he says something back, but it's actually in another language. I can't even read it, but he says something back to him, not in English. And then it's quiet again, and they're kind of not talking and just focused on their food. Now they're going to watch some TV, and so he's got this looks like a samurai type of show on. Again, something in a different language. And he says, "Can we watch something else?" And the grandpa says something back again. Not sure what it is, but looking at his face, I don't think it was the answer he wanted. And it's still the same show on. So now he gets up from the couch. He goes to his backpack, and you can see Grandpa's wondering. He's got a question mark over his head. He's wondering what he's going to do. And the little boy takes out some paper and some colorful art materials. It looks like some markers, some pens, an eraser, and he starts to draw. And the grandpa's looking over his shoulder like, And so he sees his picture he's drawing here, and look at the grandpa's face. He's got an idea. I wonder what he's going to go do. So the boy sees him. He's going over here, and he's thinking, what's he doing? And he comes back with something. And here he has a little book and it says sketch. His is all in color, his is in black and white. It says, right when I gave up on talking, my grandfather surprised me by revealing a world beyond words. And in a flash, we see each other for the first time. And here is his character that he's drawn, and it's really him kind of in this outfit. And here's the grandfather, and look at the detail in his sketching that he's done. It's all in black and white. Pretty cool. Two very different warriors. All the things we could never say come pouring out. And again, take a look at kind of all the things on this page between the grandfather and the grandson with their different pictures that they're drawing. And we build a new world that even words can't describe. Wow, look at that. But just when we're closer than ever, so they're drawing together and they're communicating through their drawings and through time spent making art, that old distance, and you can see over here we've got the grandfather, and this big gap here, and then we've got the grandson. Comes roaring back. So here's this kind of in the middle of them, this creature between the two of them. And he's got kind of the grandfather's art tool, and maybe over here this is like the grandson's art tool. So the grandfather picks up this and swirls it around, and the grandson picks up the other tool and swirls it around. It says, this time I'm not afraid. Because I know that together, and look what's happening there. There's a lot going on in that picture. A lot of detail about their two worlds colliding and coming together. We can make our way across now. After years of searching for the right words, we find ourselves happily speechless. And what a difference now, where they're hugging each other and they're not saying anything, but just their faces, the looks on their faces, and they've created all of these pieces of artwork together. And here we come to the end of the visit, and they're both very happy. Mom's there, they hug each other. He's got a smile on his face, and look what they've done. They've traded with their art materials. So he now has the grandfather's brush that he was using, and he's got his marker. And as they're waving goodbye, you can kind of faintly see this cloud up here. Looks like one of the grandfather's creations, but he's starting to add some color to it. And that's the end. And I'll show you again in the beginning. So there was a picture in the front, which is like the boy's picture. And then at the end, the grandfather's picture. And I will also show you, because this is a book that has a book jacket and there might be something different underneath. But before I do that, I also want to read about the author, because I think it's really, it has some important things in this section about him. So it says, Min Lee is a writer, but like his grandfather, a man of few words. A first-generation Vietnamese American, he's a national early childhood policy expert. He's the author of Let Me Finish, and has written for the New York Times, the Horn Book, and the Huffington Post. Outside of spending time with his beautiful wife and sons in their home near Washington, D.C., Min's favorite place to be is in the middle of a good book. I knew I liked him. And you can go and visit him. He has a website, minleebooks.com, or on Twitter, it's at Bottom Shelf Books, so we could I will certainly tag him that I shared this book on Twitter and see if he responds to us. So now, do you want to see what's under the cover? This one's pretty cool. So it's really colorful and has both characters. And if we take the book jacket off, what we see underneath is the grandfather's sketchbook that was in the book. So the book jacket is the colorful one of the two characters, and there's even on the back. And then the book underneath is his, it just says the word sketch. So that is Drawn Together by Min Lee. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.